Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and this is going to be me making some tiny little clay animals to make earrings out of. I got inspired to do this because I went to Claire's, and Claire's has been my source for a lot of my novelty earrings and novelty hair foo-foos and such for a long time. I really like novelty little things that I can wear, including novelty socks. And so for a while I have been making my own earrings, so I've been buying less of them because I can just get designs I want by myself. But as I went to check out what the new selection in Claire's was like, I noticed that a lot of the ones I was most attracted to were tiny little animal earrings, and they were usually in a sort of chibi sort of form with big heads and eyes, and their most obvious features emphasized, like elephants with a lot of ear and trunk and not much of a body, and foxes with a lot of ear and fluffy tail. And I thought, hey, I could probably make those if I got back into using clay, because I have actually used clay before a little bit. I mostly made cats. Specifically, I made 3 little figurines of the cats that I had at the time. Those don't look so great right now because I made them pre-fire, so now they're all smoky colored even after I cleaned them. But they were really cool to have, and to have something that was so unique to my own animals and that I could customize so much, but that was inspired by cute things that I had seen other people make. And so the hardest part of making those things had been getting the little pieces to stick together, because I would make like the heads separately because I wanted to roll them in my hands so I could get them nice and round, and I would roll the tail separately usually, and then I would attach it by the ways that I was taught to do in art class a long time ago, by doing little scratches on both sides that I wanted to attach to each other and then smushing those together a little bit. But those fell apart a lot, so this time I decided to go at it with a different tack and use more the method that you use when carving wood or stone, and that is to start with a somewhat amorphous blob and carve away the parts you don't want rather than making the parts you do want and sticking them together. And that worked a lot better. My things didn't fall apart because they had never been disattached in the first place. Even small little things like the ears of my cats were pretty well in place because they were so integrated with the rest of the cat's head. Now, a kind of funky thing that I'm doing is these tools that I'm using are, I believe they're hair picks. I got them in a store with a bunch of East Asian stuff in it, and I just really like them because they're a bunch of weapons, and I like bladed weapons that are staffs like that. They're really cool. They remind me of the favorite books that I read as a kid. But I can't really use hair picks because my hair is super smooth and has no texture, and can't stay up without a ponytail holder and a braid and a massive clip, so they aren't very useful to me that way. But I used them the last time that I was using clay because I've had these for several years now, and they worked really well. If you notice the pointed ends and the different shapes on them, they actually look a lot like the clay tools that you can buy in the store. And so I didn't want to buy a whole new set of stuff for this new craft because that's expensive, so I decided to use what I already had, and they did work really well. So what am I making? You could probably tell that the first thing was a cat. In between filming, I also made some smaller cats that are of a simpler design, that just have the cat head and ears and a tail. They don't have the 4 legs or the hip on the right side, because I wanted to make some that were at least a little bit easier to make, and so that I could make more of them quicker and offer them to more people, and also see if I liked a simple design. And I really do. I like both of these versions. And then the third design that I decided to make were red pandas, because red pandas are my favorite animal. I think I've said this a couple of times before. They're really freaking adorable. I have loved them ever since I did a science project presentation on them when I was like 8 years old, and I discovered this really cool animal that is beautiful, and they really like to cuddle with each other, and their like mannerisms and the way they interact with each other are a lot like those of cats. And I love cats, so that's very, very cute. And they're kind of like a chubby version of a cat because of their head size relative to their bodies and how short their little legs are. And if you would like to see videos of super adorable red pandas interacting with each other, a zoo that's very close to me, Portland Zoo, actually does videos of them and has been putting out extra of those since the pandemic so that people can see and know, hey, we should support this zoo because they have adorable animals that need taken care of. So I will link their Twitter account below. It's very cute. And so unlike the cats, I decided to put them in a shape that was all curled up because they also like to do that, and that would make their little faces, which are very distinctive, and also their big fat bushy striped tails very prominent because those are the things that are most distinctive about them, plus it's a very cute pose. So in the painting portion, I did film me doing the white parts of the red panda's face, but that footage corrupted. So we're skipping to me putting on the darker red after I have put on a lighter orangey red for the stripes of the tail and also the white of the face. I mixed together some bright orange and some bright red to get this color because red pandas are fairly orangish, their red parts, so I wanted to make sure it wasn't just flat red. And their stripes are basically just a lighter version of that, so I just mixed in some white to make those. And I used a couple of different brushes, but mostly just very small brushes because I was doing some very small details and trying not to get paint all over my fingers that would then smudge onto the little figures. And I also tried not to get much paint on the little metal rings that I had screwed into the figures so that I could make them into earrings or drape them off of anything really. And these are something that you can buy pretty much anywhere. They have clay working with jewelry making supplies. Then I decided for the cats I would make the bigger, more detailed ones tuxedo cats, and I would make the little ones fully black cats with a little yellow eyes, and I really enjoyed doing this. My favorite color for cats is tuxedo because I had a tuxedo cat who was just freaking adorable a few years ago. And black cats are also a favorite of mine, partially for the witchy vibes and also because they are also very distinguished looking, and I currently have an all-black cat who is a princess. But painting the tuxedo cat did take a long time because I was trying to be very careful so I wouldn't have to redo it over and over, and of course when you're working with black and white, having to repaint over any of the black with more white would have been very difficult to get it to be opaque, so I was trying to be very careful with my tiny brush. So these are the finished pieces. I have put some spray sealant on them. It's Rust-Oleum brand and it worked really well. It's just a clear glossy sealant, and so it also sort of smoothed out some of the brush strokes which I really like. And so we have my tuxedo cats, some simple little all black cats, some foxes that I made before I started filming as a see if this is actually a good idea tester thing, and they turned out really well too, I think. And my red pandas, which I am so very happy with. I love red pandas, and I wasn't sure if I would be able to make something that looked right, but once I put the faces on there, they really do look like I wanted them to, so I'm super happy about that. And I am so excited to make more types of animals and also objects. I'll probably make some book ones, and I'm really excited to see what sort of other ideas I get. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!